Hi guys, and welcome to the Sunderland vs Bolton match review. But before we do get into this, I do want to say I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. I hope you got everything you wanted, and of course, most importantly, spent some really good quality time with your friends and family. But we did get back down to business yesterday on Boxing Day, and it really just zapped every ounce of Christmas spirit that I had left. But we've got to do it. So Sunderland did take on Bolton at the Stadium Light, where we did draw 0-0. So we'll go straight into the lineup. So in goal we had John McLaughlin. We again played with the sort of 5 at the back / 3 at the back with the 2 wing backs. So as the back 3 we had Willis, we had Ozturk and Flanagan. On the right side we had O'Nien. On the left we had Hume. We had Ledbetter and Power. In the middle we had Gooch, Watmore and Charlie Wyke up top. Now, first and foremost, a lot of people raise their eyebrows at the formation, and don't get me wrong, 5 at the back sounds dreadful, particularly with no disrespect to Bolton, particularly against bottom of the league. You're at home, we're a team that's supposed to be going for promotion, and you're playing 5 at the back. Now, this system, if you just said to someone, we played 5 at the back, that sounds incredibly negative, it sounds very defensive, but it isn't the formation, that isn't the problem. The formation in itself, it's been utilised by other teams and other clubs who have the right players to fit that system, and it can be an incredibly effective system. It can be if you have the right players, particularly the wing-backs. The wing-backs in this formation are the most important cog within the entire role, within the entire system and formation. Denver Hume, I believe, can play the role incredibly well as a left wing-back. I think O'Nien can't over on that right-hand side. Can he play as just a general right back? He can do a job, of course he can. I think he can. But with O'Nien, you need pace that can get you up and down that right hand side, which O'Nien lacks. I prefer to see O'Nien in the middle or even as a number 10, whereas his footballing ability isn't great. I'm not going to dress O'Nien up. I love O'Nien, of course I do. Everyone knows that. It's well publicised. I do love Luke O'Nien, but his footballing ability isn't great, but what he does offer is the energy, and he gets his body in the box, particularly at the number 10 role, where we're lacking bodies in the box anyway right now. When we're getting balls in the box, whoever's up top is isolated. O'Nien adds the extra body and is very good at making those late runs and getting himself into the box. But as a right wing back, he doesn't suit that role whatsoever. Now, what you also need is at least minimum 2 of the 3 centre-backs to have the pace, to have the ability to cover the centre of that defence, or if the wing-backs are getting caught out. Now with Willis, he can play that. Flanagan and Ozturk, they can't. So it's just a shit show at the back. It's an absolute shit show at the back from the off. And that's how I would sort of conclude the game yesterday. It was almost like we were trying our best to score. Our strikers were trying our best to score, yet our defenders or our back 3 were trying their best to concede, which sounds really stupid, but it seemed like that at times because the back 3 were gaping open at times. Flanagan was giving the ball away like there's no tomorrow. And Flanagan in the last game, previously to this Bolton game, I actually thought he played quite well within the back 3. But I think he was terrible today. Yesterday on Boxing Day. He was just giving the ball away needlessly. Ozturk got caught out a handful of times. But generally, it was all right. But against any better opposition, we would have got absolutely hammered with the way our defence played yesterday, with the back 3 in particular. Don't get me wrong, Willis was probably a lot better than both Ozturk and Flanagan because he suits that formation more. That's not necessarily Flanagan and Ozturk's fault, but getting into the game in general anyway. So the opening sort of 10-15 minutes, it was a very scrappy affair. Bolton actually made the first chance, and it was a really good chance at that. It was a good ball coming in from the right-hand side where they had a volley around the sort of penalty spot, and it was a really good chance, but they managed to hit it high and wide. But then we seemed to gain control in that first half. There was a few decent little passing moves, particularly through Gooch. Hume, of course, on one side, he bombs forward as he does. He's probably the only player that was really testing the opposition, has done in recent weeks, in terms of rather than just passing it sideways or trying to pass the way around the opposition, he would run at them and he'd take risks and ask questions. But we had Gooch yesterday, who was a second additional player that would do exactly that, because no one else is. No one else is asking questions of the opposition in terms of running at them. And Gooch did that, especially in the first half. There was a handful of times where he'd spin his man in the middle and just run at them and ask questions and make them drop off rather than us sitting back and dropping off all the time. And he did make a couple of chances. He had a shot or two himself. There was one time where he did spin his man around the halfway mark, and then just took it all the way towards the edge of that box, played it out wide to Watmore, who had acres of space inside the right-hand side of the box, but Watmore being Watmore, his touch was absolutely horrendous, which made it easier for the Bolton back line to close him down, close the gap, and his shot with his left foot was blocked. But yeah, so the first half, we controlled it. I feel like we did control it to an extent, but on the whole, it was still terrible. Power and Ledbetter were awful for me. As soon as we did get a little bit of momentum, i.e. the likes of Hume would push us forward and we'd have one chance, they'd clear it away, and the fans are really getting behind us. At this point, we need to remain calm and work our way forward and get forward. Don't just hoof the ball, because that kills momentum, and that's exactly what we were doing. The second we go forward, we get the fans on our side, we'd have a decent chance, we'd still remain with possession, and that's when we really need to push them. But then Ledbetter and Power, they get overly excited, they go for the Hollywood pass, it'll sail over everyone and go out for a goal kick, which completely kills momentum dead, and the attack's over. And it gives Bolton the chance to, reform, get their shape back together, and we were doing that time and time again. We didn't take advantage of the times where we really were on top. But in the first half, we did manage to get a goal. We got a goal through Flanagan, which was of course disallowed. Ball was put into the box, and Flanagan, for me, I think it should have been allowed. I don't think it was a disallowed goal. He simply beat the keeper to it. The keeper's got the wrong side of it. The keeper does get a hand on the ball, a couple of hands on the ball. He's not fully in control of it. I think Flanagan simply beats him to it. He didn't make huge contact with the keeper or anything like that. The keeper was wrong side. Flanagan's beat him to it. It should have been a goal, but it's been disallowed. But even then, we can't simply blame the ref for everything, because we should have made a lot better. I think the statistics at the end of the game really do flatter us. I think it said we had 18 or 19 shots or something like that, with only 4 or 5 on target. But a lot of the times it was balls put in the box. Wyke was so isolated. Every time we get to that final third, there was no one else in and around Wyke, which is a similar situation to Grigg. But the big thing that was really, really winding me up, and has been doing its rounds around social media, Twitter in particular, was Bridcut, former Sunderland man. He's, I think, 5'6", something like that. He out-jumped Wyke and beat Wyke to the ball in the air on countless occasions, and Wyke got absolutely wiped the floor with by someone who was literally half a foot shorter than him. Wyke didn't win one aerial duel with someone half a foot smaller than him. Bridcut, naturally a central midfielder, was playing in the middle of the defence. A lot of players would have seen that as a field day, but Wyke struggled like hell, which it just shows the quality. I mean, don't get me wrong, service to him wasn't great, but when the ball's in the air, you'd expect Wyke, who's supposed to be our target man, to win headers and aerial duels against the likes of Liam Bridcut, and it wasn't coming off. But anyway, so going into the second half, it was more of the same in terms, Bolton did have a good chance or two. They did make McLaughlin pull off a decent save, but again, we had chances, but particularly later on in the game, we seemed to be just quite content at sitting back for the majority and trying to control it from the back, but then having nothing up top, and we only seemed to really go for it towards the late stages of that second half. McNulty had a very good chance, and our keeper, to be honest, pulled off an absolutely world-class save. Absolutely world-class. It was a bench shot from McNulty on the edge of the box, trying to go for that top right-hand corner, and it was an absolutely class save. But Flanagan did go off injured early-ish in that second half, and at this point, we could have quite easily changed to a 4-4-2, a 4-2-3-1, whatever you want to go for, to really go for it, because at this point, we were gaining momentum, we were controlling the game, we really... we had him pinned back at points, Bolton, to really go for it. But what does Parkinson do? He just simple, like for like, replaces Flanagan with De Bock and makes it exactly the same, which, it's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. We need to be going for these games, and Parkinson just seems to be happy to sit back for the majority of games and then maybe throw the kitchen sink on for the last 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? And it's just terrible. So the game finished 0-0. Should we have won it? Yes, I think the performance, again, it was marginally improved, but still terrible. And the thing is, now, we are heading closer and closer for a relegation battle. As stupid as it might sound, or as ridiculous it might sound, we are genuinely and seriously heading towards a relegation battle. And I did make my opinions known on social media as well yesterday, and I'll say it here as well. Stuart Donald, of course you're not watching this, I know you're not watching this, but this would be my message to Stuart Donald. Right. Everyone makes a mistake. everyone makes mistakes. You have made a mistake by appointing Phil Parkinson. Is making a mistake a criminal offence? No, it's not. But please do not be stubborn enough to stand by your mistake and stick with your mistake simply just because you don't want to admit that you were wrong. So please don't stand by your mistake instead of rectifying your mistake. Parkinson right now has to leave. Stuart Donald, don't get me wrong, he has made his fair share of mistakes. I know he has. And at the minute, people are struggling to point and know who to blame. Is it the players? Of course it's the players. Stuart Donald's made a shit ton of mistakes as well, appointing Phil Parkinson being one of them. But even with funds in January, how the hell can you trust a man like Phil Parkinson in the role that he is now? How can you trust him with this transfer budget? I don't trust him with it whatsoever, because Stuart Donald, when he sacked Jack Ross, and I still stand by that, it was the correct decision to sack Jack Ross, because with the form he was in, we weren't going to get promoted. We weren't going to get promoted, particularly automatically, which is what we were going for. But Stuart Donald did say that when he sacked Jack Ross, that, you know, all the best of Jack Ross, etc., etc. But the reason we sacked him was because he didn't believe, on the current form and the way things are going currently, that he is the right man to take us to the Championship and get us promoted. So how the hell has Philip Parkinson shown anything different? Because he is a million times worse than Jack Ross. Easily. He's won, what, is it 2 games out of 12? Something like that. He's been knocked out of 3 different cup competitions. We're getting battered left, right and centre. The football is terrible in itself. I've seen some of the players, they've gone backwards and backwards and backwards. It's a huge backward step. So how the hell you can stick with this man? And apparently Stuart Donald has come out and said that, you know, the atmosphere around the place has been miles better. He's noticed a huge improvement in the atmosphere around the club. How the hell, how deluded are you? Do you know what I mean? You just need to get rid of Phil Parkinson. He's made the mistake. Hold your hand up and change. We have to do it now, because this club is seriously heading towards a relegation battle if we stick with this man. And, you know, I blame the players just as much. But Phil Parkinson just isn't the right man for the job. But he's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to go anywhere, but I just beg that we get rid of him and put someone else in charge, because we still have enough time to save this season somewhat, and at least maybe try and mount an attempt to get into the playoffs. Because right now it's relegation form, and I wouldn't be surprised if we are in a relegation battle come the end of the season. But that's it. Crap as usual, guys. Merry Christmas. I hope you have somehow enjoyed this video, and if you have, hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already to become a fully fledged member of the Sassy Army. But for now, you take care and stay jammy.